Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're always looking for ways to help people find healthier lifestyle habits that resonate with them. Today's is a topic we're excited to learn about. We're going to discuss Ayurveda, one of the world's oldest holistic healing systems. And Ayurveda uses many techniques, including foods, herbs, and other practices for intuitive and preventative healthcare. It's such an honor today to be joined by Ayurveda expert Laura Plumb. Laura is the author of Ayurvedic Cooking for Beginners, a spiritual counselor and a yoga practitioner. So we're going to discuss principles of Ayurveda, how foods affects different bodies, and other nutrition tips. So I'm gonna. Thank you so much for taking the time and join us.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be with you.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you became an Ayurvedic expert.
Yes, well, I've studied Ayurveda and I love Ayurveda. I don't know about expert. What would you like to know?
Well, how did you land on Ayurveda, like versus, because there are so many different kind of ancient holistic system that's out there, like why Ayurveda?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was studying many of those different traditions. I studied nutrition in general. I was very interested in some studies on sugar and how, sorry, I've got a hair in my eye. Sugar and how toxic sugar can be, not only for the body, but for our cultures. It, of course, is the reason, the cause of the cause of the slave trade. So sugar is a problem. I started studying when I was just a teenager, and I studied different wisdom traditions. So I also studied Buddhism, lots of meditation from a young age, and I just was curious as to how people who lived closer to Mother Earth understood our relationship to Mother Earth. And I just knew intuitively that if we lived in greater harmony with nature, it made sense that we would have better health, better wellness, maybe more joy, more creativity, more clarity. And maybe it could even heal the whole wide world. Like maybe our cultures would blossom from that and we would treat each other with more compassion, more kindness, right? It just makes sense that if we look at nature, she knows how to grow a garden, how to grow a forest. And we know now that forests, trees, work to help other trees grow. And not just other trees, but everything in the forest, right? We know now about the mycelial structure under the earth, invisible to our naked eye. And yet, under the earth is all these networks of cooperation. So we know that nature is cooperating. Therefore, if we live more according to nature, doesn't it make sense that everything within us will also cooperate for greater health, radiance, aliveness, and that would help us cooperate with others for greater living in general? I just feel like when I found Ayurveda, I found the science that brings all of that together. I found the science that is a comprehensive system that said, look, if they discovered this in China or Japan, in Siberia, Australia, South America, North America, if wherever it was discovered, if it makes sense, if it helps to heal, come on in. So Ayurveda is sometimes referred to as the mother of healing in the sense that it's very embracing, very affirming, and very inclusive.
You kind of answered my next question already. So I gave like a sort of brief like introduction about what Ayurveda is. So I was just going to ask you, could you explain Ayurveda? I think you just did. It's an ancient belief, and it's like taking like holistically bringing together everything, and then for you to get in touch with Mother Nature and then support each other.
Yeah, and I just think, just if I could qualify one piece, is that Ayurveda is an ancient healing system. So, but it doesn't see that healing is just absence of disease. It sees that healing means wholeness, aliveness, vibrancy, right? That the mind is calm, the senses are sharp, and the heart, right, is alive. So Ayurveda is seeking to bring us as fully alive as possible. Ayu means life, and Veda means the study or the knowledge. So it's the study of life and longevity. Therefore, people understand Ayurveda as maybe ways to eat or ways to do some self-care. And while it is about supporting your wellness, it isn't just preventative medicine. It is also healing and curative. So I think that's an important
So,
but always working with nature.
love it. So, what are some principles besides working with nature can help you maintain your wellness within the Ayurvedic system?
So I think, you know, first of all, we can simplify it, but it's still very complex. So the principles are simple. Just to say to any old person, what can you do? Well, Ayurveda is one of the original medicines that is personalized medicine. So we hear this buzz term now, and at least in the West, it's about personalized medicine. And that's beautiful that mainstream medicine is picking up on that. That was always true about Ayurveda. It's always been about each individual is wholly unique. How they got to where they are now is wholly unique. And so we're going to have a wholly unique protocol for how to address their imbalances, right? Having said that, there's some universal principles. And that's that nature is generative and regenerative. So nature has encoded within it the capacity to heal and restore itself. And you too are nature, right? And everyone listening is nature. We are nature. We're not separate from nature as much as we might think we are. We get in our little cars and we drive around our life in our little bubbles thinking that we're separate. But actually, we are an integral part of the whole, the web, the all. And so Ayurveda first might say, well, just pay attention to nature and see what you can learn from that. And then the second step might be to see what works for you, what nourishes you, what depletes you. Are you nourished by a gray, wet, slightly cold day? Maybe some people are. It makes them feel a little bit calmer. It makes them slow down. Maybe that's nourishing for some. Another person might be nourished by a really sunny, clear day. Sunny and warm, sunny, warm and moist. Or is it sunny, dry, and a little bit cool? Like what nourishes you? And then seek what nourishes you and avoid what depletes you. And that's what I love about Ayurveda is that we don't need microscopes, macroscopes, telescopes, great lengthy studies to know what nourishes us. We can do this for ourselves. We can know for ourselves. And therefore, Ayurveda is very empowering that way. And then the final thing is just to notice the rhythms of nature and see if you can align with those rhythms. So, the earth spinning around its axis gives us night and day. That's a flow. So try to flow with that flow. Slow down at night. Try to get to bed before too late. Try to get up with the sun. Let the birds sing you awake in the morning, right? And then try to eat at the same time each day. So get yourself into some rhythms. Getting yourself aligning with the rhythms of nature is one of the most healing things you can do. Sounds simple, and even sounds a little boring for some people. Some people don't like to be too scheduled. But if you can just not call it disciplines or schedule, call it rhythms. Call it working with nature. Maybe ritualize it a little bit. Maybe in the evening, sometimes in the evening after work, I like to make myself a little sweet, sour, sort of bubbly drink, non-alcoholic, but I feel like it's a way of ritualizing the end of the day, right? Rather than going like some people might like to go have a glass of wine, but just to do something where I come back home, I spend time with my husband and my dog, and we just acknowledge the day is now coming to a close. How was this day for you? Right? And then we watch the sun go down, right? And we feel the darkness come up, right? And that just simple things like that actually are so sacred and sumptuous when you fully embrace them. And they really lead to good health because of the chronobiology within us. We do have genes that are set for the chronos, for the time. And we do work, our body responds to light, right? It responds to the absence of light. So instead of taking melatonin, instead of taking supplements, right? Living this way is so wholesome and so rewarding.
So I love this whole personalized approach to wellness. And then and what you describe, is this some of the practitioner called the dosha system? Or could you explain like what dosha system is?
Yeah, so I was trying to explain some basic principles that before we even have to figure out the doshas, because I think sometimes once we start talking doshas, people can get a little confused. And those principles I just mentioned, anyone can do no matter what their dosha. The dosha system is based on the fact that in nature, we can observe 5 elements. And the 5 elements are said to be properties or principles that come alive in tangible ways. So there's space, which is just this vast infinite field, right? So space, we can see it in the sky above us. But there's also space in the cup, where there's water and there's not water, right? So the not water part is where there's space. There's space within our bodies, right? Spacious feels good. Marie Kondo wants us to create more space in our closets, right? So there's space, and it's got its own good properties. There's air, and the distinction is that space is pretty stable. At least it looks and feels stable to the naked eye. And air flows, air moves. So air is like wind, basically. And then there's fire, water, and earth. And each of these carries a property, right? Space is a field for connection. Air or wind gives us flow or movement, motion. Fire gives us digestion, transformation, but also warmth and light so we can see. Water gives us cohesion, right? Water is the cohesion of two molecules. And so it brings life forth, and life grows and multiplies with water and in water. And then finally, the earth element, which is stability. And we all have all 5 elements within us. You are nature, so you have all of this within you. And then also we have these combinations. Space and air makes Vata dosha. So this is the doshas now. 3 doshas made from the 5 elements. And then Pitta is fire with some water, and Kapha is water and earth. So if you just know what those elements are, you can probably know a little bit about Vata. It's going to be light, mobile, subtle, cold, right? Pitta is going to be hot, fiery, passionate, clear. They can see into the distance. They can see where they're going. So they're determined, right? They're bold, they're brave, they're great leaders. And then Kapha is soft, sweet, grounded. They have this gentle flow about them. And they're the nurturers of our world. But the thing, and I think the reason people get so confused, is that we have all 5 elements, and therefore we have all 3 doshas. If you're moving, first of all, if you're alive, you're moving, right? And if there's movement in your body, circulation, neural synapses, right? And anything that's moving throughout the body, even your thoughts, even your body moving from here and there, even me reaching my hands out and moving. This is what our aliveness is, and that's Vata. Vata is the governing dosha of the body. And you are digesting, hopefully, even digesting what we take in through our 5 senses, digesting that nourishment into wisdom. So that's Pitta, staying at the right temperature. Think about how intelligent that system is to keep you at just the right temperature. And then finally, we have structure and lubrication, which is the Kapha dosha. So we have all 3 of these doshas in us. The question is, what's the proportion? And is there one that's a little bit more than the others? And that'll speak to some of your personality, but also your physical body. And then the one that's a little bit more than the others, we say like likes like, or like attracts like. We tend to go in the direction. If you're a fire person, a Pitta person, Pitta people tend to like maybe spicy food or competitive sports. So they increase that dosha, right? And then that can lead to imbalance. So it's always about trying to bring these back into some sort of a harmony. I think of harmony is a better word because that implies flow. We're not going to just find balance and get stuck there because that would be stagnation. That's not balance. We find harmony. We find the song. And sometimes it's this note, sometimes it's that note, sometimes we bring in the violin, sometimes it's, the piano. It's different things that are. So everything about life in this world, the universe, is a word that means the one song. It's about seeking to be in harmony with life itself. Yeah.
I know like one way to achieve this harmony is through food and nutrition, and then different food would affect different doshas. How does that work?
Different food will feed different doshas. The first and easiest thing to, I think, understand is that the season will bring forth the food that balances that season. And right now it's spring where I am. I think you are too, right? Where we are. Maybe we have people listening from the southern hemisphere where it would be autumn. But in the springtime, for instance, this is the time when here in Southern California, we have what we call May gray and June gloom. But it starts in April. So we're under this cloud cover, this fog. It can be heavy, wet, cold. And so spring is bringing us what? All of these beautiful leafy greens, all of these beautiful pungent chives and garlics and different kinds of onions and things, right? And even the greens we're getting are like arugula, which is so peppery. So it's got a lot of pungency, got a fire to it. And greens are astringent, so that's the air element. And this is what we need now. We need the fire element that will help to melt the warm the cold and melt the winter freeze. And then we need the air element that will help to circulate and bring things excess out of the body, right? And get us moving again. So after winter stagnation, we need the spring bounty. We need the foods that spring is giving us. So one of the best things anyone can do is either grow your own food or go to your local farmer's market and buy what's seasonal and eat what's seasonal. Because the seasonal foods, they're not just locally grown, they're not just supporting your farmer, but those are the foods that are actually balancing what the weather is doing in your space, in your locale right now. That's the first and most important thing. I think of the word soul: seasonal, organic, unprocessed, and local. Right?
Love it.
And then so spring foods are going to be reducing kapha. So if you just look at what's available in the spring and you feel that you're a kapha person, then you know, okay, we're going to eat more of those foods. More foods that are pungent, that have the fire element, and more foods that encourage circulation throughout the body. So that would be foods that are light, purifying, drying. A great example of that would be dal, mung dal, legumes, and greens. So beans and greens, right? With some good spice. Summertime, those greens become more cooling, more refreshing. We don't get the hot, intense, fibrous, pungent greens of spring in the summer. If you think about summer greens, it's that butter lettuce, right? It's the zucchinis and the squash. They're very moist. They're very juicy. All the melons, right? And even the spice, the herbs, the aromatic herbs go from the strong thyme, oregano, into things more like dill or cilantro. So cooling in the summer. The foods are naturally cooling. And then in autumn and winter, well, in the places in the world that aren't naturally producing because it's too cold, our grandparents would can, cure, right, store. So they would have the foods, sweet potatoes or things that would stay in a box, right, in the pantry. And those things then need to be cooked. And they need to be maybe spiced. So in the late autumn and in the winter, we want our foods definitely to be served warm, cooked, warm, gently spiced. And then they would also sour and ferment those foods, whether it was yogurts or cheeses or kimchi, right, or cabbage. These foods are the foods that help us stay warm and keep our digestive fire strong in those cold seasons. So that's one of the best things you can do. And you can look to the season to see what I used to say, instead of what's your dosha, think what's your season. If you're a fire person, you're a summer person. So you want to eat foods that are cooling, right? If you're a spring person, you're kapha. You want to eat foods that have fire and air, right? If you're an autumn person, you're vata. So you want to eat foods, grains, foods that are strengthening, foods that are hearty, but again, always cooked and always served with digestive boosting spices or sours. And sours means fermented or citrus. Does that help?
Yes, no, totally. This is so much information too. So while we're thinking about dosha, thinking about season, should we also obviously listen to our intuitive thoughts when selecting food and also preparing meals?
I think you've been doing some interviews with people recently. Yeah, talking about that. Yeah, all about food. Well, we're going to have to hear a little bit more about you and your work in a moment. But yes, intuitive is an interesting question. And since I've been following what you've been doing lately, I've seen that you've had some people on talking about this. The thing is, there has to be this distinction between intuitive and a craving that may not be a healthy craving.
Mm-hmm.
So two things about that. If we've trained our palate to want really stimulating foods, now how do we train our palate? Well, we train it by giving it very salty, very spicy, or very sweet foods with additives and preservatives that aren't coming from nature. So they're not nutritious and they're not nourishing you. They're just exciting, right? This sense of taste. And when we're seeking that, then the tongue will get trained and it will continue to want more of that. The problem is it's sort of empty. It's not filling you. It's not nourishing you. So then the body's going and asking for more because it doesn't feel nourished. So you get into a messy spiral there. I had an experience when I was, another example of this is I had an experience when I was a student, and I went and I studied in Europe for a year. And I was visiting a friend. I was actually happened to be in Paris, but neither here nor there. And she left and went out of town. So there was a couple of days where I was alone, and it was winter. And Paris is beautiful, but in the winter, it can also, when you're all alone, it can also be cold and gray. And I just started to have this craving for peanut butter, which is weird. You're in Paris, it's known for its foods. But I was a student. I didn't have a lot of money to go to the fancy restaurant. So I started craving peanut butter. And I walked myself across town to this store that sold international foods. And I bought myself some peanut butter. But as I was doing that, I thought, am I really craving peanut butter? What am I really craving? So I sat down along the banks of the Seine and I looked at the river. I always think of water as my mother, like the holy healing waters. And she sort of stared at the waters. It's like she gave me an answer, which was, you're missing your mother. You're missing family. And maybe all I was missing was people because I was feeling alone. But I called my mom and I felt better, and then I didn't even need the peanut butter.
I love it.
So this is the thing about intuitive eating. It's really important that we ask ourselves, what am I really seeking? Am I seeking nourishment in the form of friendship? Am I seeking nourishment maybe in the form of adventure? I need something new. I'm feeling stagnant. Or am I genuinely seeking a good meal that's going to, help my body? And I think that one of the things that I've been doing, I've returned to, I used to do it and then COVID interrupted it. There's a tradition in the Vedic history, which is this Ekadashi, which is the 11th waxing moon, to fast on that day. And I've been doing that again. And I know that we're talking about intuitive eating and intuitive cravings, but just to take a day once a month where if you eat very bland, you eat very simple, you're going to retraining your palate. You're also giving your inner fires a rest, right? And then I feel like from there, you're getting really in touch with your inner intuition. Now, again, it doesn't have to be no eating. I choose to do no eating and just sipping warm water, but it could be just eating a bowl of dal or just having vegetable soup. I don't want to encourage excess fasting. We don't do that in Ayurveda. But I think it can really help us just to have a moment to withdraw our senses, to pay attention to our knee-jerk reactions, to pay attention to what we do hunger for. It gives us a lot of insight. And then I think our intuition can be trusted.
I love this explanation. We actually have one question came in. What should we eat during solar eclipse?
Yeah, good question. Absolutely a great question. Such a beautiful question. So the solar eclipse is, what day is today? The 18th? It's tomorrow, I think, right? And yeah, I think today's the 18th.
Yes, today is 8th.
Right. So the solar eclipse on the west coast of the United States is tomorrow night, and then it's early morning the 20th for others. So that's why we're putting April 19th, 20th. So it's coming. And so tomorrow would be the day and the next day to do exactly what I just said. We talk about fasting. Again, the fasting is it's more of a spiritual fasting. So you want to fast from inputs is the main thing. You don't want to go outside. You don't want to go and try to look at it. It will be visible in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, etc. In the West, it's not visible. So there's not even hopefully a temptation to go see it. But the recommendation is to go inward. Why? Because actually it messes with your brain a little bit. That weird light messes with your optic nerves. And instead, you want to go in and anchor your mind, anchor all of your awareness on that inner uneclipsable light, right? That light within that can never be eclipsed. And at the same time, so you reduce the inputs, less listening, less seeing, right? If you listen to anything, maybe it's spiritual music or soft, gentle music, but it's a good day to have more silence, more quiet. Maybe you're doing some journaling. And in terms of what you're eating, again, bland, so that you're not exciting your senses is the idea here. It's okay to do that most of the time. That gives us a lot of wisdom. But just this once, let's just go inward and just eat to nourish. So again, it could be a bowl of dal. It's just good to do plant-based on these days. Could be some vegetable soups. Just very, very simple, even some kanji. Something to, again, give the body a rest. Just focus on the light within and what your body's able to do by itself, right? It's such a beautiful time to remember the magic of you. And this is a beautiful solar eclipse. We're going to come out to the other side of it really re-energized for greater living, greater dharma, greater purpose. So just, it's also a good time to go in, maybe journal, do some visualizations, do all those things that we like to do when we're going to start something new. Think of this as the time to really come and do the inner contemplation without knowing. Enter the mystery. Enter without needing to know what's going to come out of it, because it might surprise you. There's something new awaiting. All of you listening today, there's something new awaiting. But we don't know what it is yet, and we won't know until May, until we're on the other side of it. So just going in with that open-minded curiosity that doesn't need to fill, right? But we're working on emptying. Let it go. Pralaya, beautiful term that means to dissolve. We're in the dissolution period now. Let it dissolve. Let it go.
You pretty much answered my next question. I was just gonna, you almost read my mind. I was gonna ask, like, what are other practices that people follow Ayurveda should perform? This listening within, and then, some kind of fasting and practicing your dosha, and then following the season. Is there anything else that people should be thinking about? I'm all thinking about also the line of, like, maybe yoga or complement Ayurveda, or if there's any other practice people should be thinking about.
Okay, yoga very much complements Ayurveda. They're called sister sciences. Yoga helps us see the nature of reality. Ayurveda helps us live the reality of nature. And they very much interweave. Yoga is something we sit, we do our yoga practice. And through our yoga practice, we cultivate awareness. Ayurveda is about taking that awareness off your mat and into your day-to-day life, and living your life with awareness, making choices out of that same awareness, so that you're making choices that are dharmic choices, that are choices that harmonize you, mind, body, spirit, but also harmonize you with nature, with life, with others. So different things that we like to invite people to do is when you wake up in the morning, do some dinacharya, daily morning practices. Dinacharya actually just means daily practices. We usually do them first thing in the morning. You brush your teeth, scrape your tongue, do some oil swishing, right? I like to put cold water on my eyes to wake up my eyes, put a little oil on the head, on the face, in the ears, all over. So a full body oil massage with a dosha appropriate oil. Sesame's a bit warming. It's a great oil, small molecules, so it penetrates deep into the skin and into the tissues from there. It's very nurturing, very nourishing, very nutritious, but it's warming. So for pitta people or in the summer, coconut oil might be a better choice. And moving in the morning. So whether I just got back from a long, long walk with my dog, right? Or maybe it's doing some yoga first thing in the morning, or maybe it's jumping on your trampoline, which is another fun, or bike ride, doing something to get circulation going. Sip water with lemon in the morning. Start your day with warm water, not cold, because cold freezes. We freeze, we tighten up, and we want to warm melt, right? After a night of dehydrating, we need to rehydrate. And the best way to do that is with warm water. So that's a good way to start. In the evening, one could, also maybe massage your feet with a little oil that might have some lavender in it, right? To help bring energy down from the head where we've been thinking all day, and down and ground ourselves again. And lavender is cooling, so it helps us to cool down, calm down for an evening of sleep. So those are a couple things. I think the meal thing, because I know you're interested in food, it's about eating at the same time each day. Then you're training your digestive system to turn on at the right time. And if you eat at different times, say you eat breakfast for a week every day at 7 a.m., well, then the next week you start eating at 8 a.m. Well, at 7 a.m., your digestive tract is ready and waiting. But what is it doing in order to digest? It's producing acids, enzymes, which will burn you from the inside out. So it can't keep producing that. As soon as it doesn't get food, it has to shut that off and shut that down. Otherwise, it'll start to eat away at the epithelial lining of your digestive tract. So it shuts it down, then you eat. Now you're putting logs on an empty fire, right? So put your logs on the fire when the fire is strong, right? And as long as you keep doing that, your body's intelligent. It responds, right? So it responds to consistency. It responds to continuity. You are nature. So just as nature moves in its seasonal rhythms and in its flow, so does the body. And it loves when you listen to it that way and respond accordingly.
I love this. I know we're running a little bit over time. Do you still have a few minutes? Because I want to ask about your book and then also with your counseling sessions. Tell us about your book.
Well, the book is really fun. It was a publisher who came to me and said, look, we think Ayurveda is getting more popular. Would you write this book for us? They had the clever idea of making it really simple. A lot of Ayurvedic recipes of before used to have lots and lots of spices. And you'd have to go collect these seeds and toast them and crush them and then mix them with this and do that and chop this. And, very few people have the time nowadays to do all that. So they said, let's reduce the recipes, just 5 ingredients for each recipe. And then we put together a seasonal spice blend. So you can make that seasonal spice blend on a Sunday, let's say, and then it sits by your stove and you just use that for each recipe. So it's very simple, easy to learn, easy to get started. My Ayurvedic teacher used to say, what's the one thing you can do for your health? If you could only do one thing, eat your meals at home. And so this helps to teach people how to do that with ease and without having to spend too much time as a slave to your kitchen. But remember, your kitchen has a lot of medicine in it for you, right? And so it's really about learning that there's so much healing in these foods and in these spices. And in this, paying attention to the touch, the taste, the aromas, right? There's medicine in that. There's medicine in just cultivating that kind of awareness.
Yeah, well, we have a wonderful testimonial just came in. I have it and then love it. Fantastic recipes and advice.
That's so
And she said that they're going to buy the book. That's so
nice. Thank you. Thank you. How lovely. It's nice to see some of your friends. What should we eat during the solar eclipse? Thank you, Missy. Good question.
Yeah.
Well, I'm way behind. Can you tell us a little? Thank you, Brittany. Can you tell us a little bit about you and the million marker? I think what you're doing is so fascinating.
Yes, I mean everything you said. So much of these principles really aligns with what our service also trying to provide. So we're kind of more approaching through just the science lens that we offer a service allowing people to understand their toxic chemical exposures, particularly the hormone disruptors. And a lot of these chemicals are coming from, your food, your lifestyle behaviors, as well as the products that you're using. So, practicing Ayurvedic practices, eating whole, eating organic from local farmers market, and eating at home, cook your own meals. Every of these practices literally help you detox. And same as, if you have good sleep, if you exercise more, sweating and then low stress also help you with detox. So everything you said is like completely aligned with what we're trying to do. And another mission of ours is bringing the education to people so that they understand, it's not all just about detoxing, because once you detox, you also have to have your health, your whole body to support you throughout, your optimize your wellness. So like supporting your nutrition, supporting the wellness, sleep, all of these aspects are super important. So that's another way why we want to bring a lot of experts like you to come on to our Instagram live to educate people about different practices and anything that could resonate with them.
I love what you said. I think one of the geniuses of Ayurveda is that it understands that when we're purifying or detoxifying, that can be weakening, depleting, fatiguing. And so Ayurveda seeks to do that slowly while also nourishing in a way that supports the detoxification, right? To keep a person strong. And this is what would happen if you went to a clinic, an Ayurveda clinic, and they want you to stay for 2 to 3 weeks because they want to prepare the body for detoxification. And afterwards, they want to support the body. Excuse me. Turn it off. There we go. Sorry about that. I
love this.
love what you're saying, because I've been working with a lot of women who are having fertility challenges, and what they're being told is they need to detoxify the body. So it's great that you have that support there for people who are really finding that through no fault of their own, really. The awareness isn't there. The world is so full of environmental toxins, and it is affecting fertility. I think that's one of the things you're working on, yes?
Yes, absolutely. We have a lot of customers and also people who are our followers. Many of them are sort of in the stage of trying to conceive or staying pregnant. Fertility is definitely a huge angle. And we also think this is the preconception stage is the best time to really intervene. Not only you're creating better, sperm quality, egg quality, embryo quality, but you also start this journey for your unborn kid. It's literally you get the biggest bang for your bucks, because the earlier that you can intervene, the better, and then the more better outcome that you could have. So that's definitely one of our biggest focus is around fertility.
Isn't that great? And I just think that that's such an important message, that everything that anyone does for their own health affects the health of the people around them, period. So do it for yourself, do it for others, do it because we need you to do it.
Absolutely.
We need to love nature as she loves us, right?
Absolutely.
Anything a person does in the direction of their own health is rewarded, because, we're designed to be healing. We are designed to heal. And so as long as we step in the direction of that healing, the body rewards that exponentially.
Yeah, I know that Ayurvedic system can be a bit complicated, and then this personalized approach is really important. So how does an Ayurvedic session with you, different from, the spiritual counseling sessions? Because I think if people can get more personalized guidance from you, they could really benefit from understanding it.
You're so sweet. Well, in Ayurvedic session, we're going to focus on whatever ails a person, whatever they're coming in to seek some, let's say, comfort or wisdom around. And we'll look at all of their life. So we're going to, look at their prakriti, their mind, body, constitution. We're going to look at their day-to-day habits and tendencies and actions and the things that they're doing. I'll always ask, what do you have for breakfast, lunch, dinner? What time do you go to sleep? What supports you? Who are your friends? Are you working? Is it satisfying? What's the level of stress in your life? We really go through a thorough sort of exploration. And then I like to see people more than once, because I'd like to give them something to start with. Let's see how it's going. All right, so we're going to lay a foundation, and then we're going to build from there. So that's an Ayurvedic session. Now, the spiritual counseling it can include Ayurveda, it can include Jyotish, but there's all these beautiful techniques to work with your mind, to work with your meditative capacity, to clear the obstacles that are preventing you from living a life of joy or a life of purpose. And so we'll bring in the tools of yoga, of Ayurveda, of meditation, of Jyotish, right? We can bring in those tools, but it's really all about what is it that's going to help serve the person so that they can really rise. And oftentimes these sessions are 3 sessions, and we're good. Sometimes I have people who say, this is so great, I want more, let's go 12 sessions, right? A lot of times I'll see a person 3 times and then once a year, just to kind of keep it tweaked. But I do feel, there's a beautiful story about how these Buddhists were at a temple and there were some marauding invaders coming, and they were meditating. Their temple had this beautiful golden Buddha. Apparently, they said, well, they're going to steal it, so they covered it in mud. And then hundreds of years later, there's all these meditating Buddhists in front of this mud, earthen, Buddha, and a chip falls off and something starts to sparkle. And one of the Buddhists the monk opens his eyes, he sees that sparkle, he says, I think there's something under there. And they start to wash it clean. And I think that's how we are. I think that we sometimes are a bit covered in mud. And so the purpose of these sessions are to really help you, wash yourself.
I love it.
Mud
I love it.
and reveal your true light. Yeah.
I love this. So thank you so much for sharing everything with us. And I saw somebody ask us to record this. This is all recorded, so it'll be online, so you guys can rewatch it. I felt like I need to rewatch, listening to what you said about the breast systems, and then really think about it. And then also like self-reflection. It's so important. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the work that you're doing. You give so much of yourself. I just can feel the heart that you put in your work, and I really appreciate who you are and what you're doing. So thank you, and thanks for this time with you.
Thank you. We're going to have to bring you back to talk more about this. Thank you.
Happily. And lots of love to all of our friends. It's nice to see you guys, Brittany and Beth and Angela, Sarah. Thanks for joining.
Yes.
Nice.
Thanks everyone for joining. Be sure to follow Laura, and we'll have all the information in our post promoting this Instagram live. So thank you.
Bless you.
Everyone.
Happy solstice. Take care. Bye, everyone.